Hi guys, Edgy here. Thanks for watching. Welcome to another Edgy playthrough. This time we are looking at Your Future Self. A short, story-driven, experimental text adventure with a unique conversational battle mechanic. This is developed and published by Contortionist Games and available on Steam. Actually, on the day of recording, I'm recording this on the 8th of March 2019, and I'm looking at the Steam page, and it's actually due to be available in the next few hours. So I'm actually not aware of how much it's going to be yet. I had a little bit of a playthrough of this yesterday, and it is quite an intriguing game. Quite a fun game. But I will warn you now, I'm going to say straight away, if you have epilepsy or are prone to seizures, this game does have flashing images, and it's not easy on the eye. I will warn you straight away, if you are prone to having fits or seizures, this might not be the video for you. You might want to look away at certain points, depending on how bad you are. Okay, I just felt I needed to say that straight out. This is quite cool. It's definitely different to... Well, I'll tell you, it reminds me a little bit of the text adventures I would play in the 1980s. That's the premise that I'm kind of inclined to. Maybe the old BBC Computer had similar kind of mechanics, but it's less adventure gamey and more you're playing a psychological battle with your future self. And on top of that, well, you'll see. There are other aspects at play. It will explain as we go on why you are in a psychological battle with your future self. I think the best thing is just to get on with it. Overwrite, that is your current save game. Yeah, that's fine. As you can see, it's... If you have eye problems or if you're prone to migraines, this is what it looks like all the way through. Just one, you know. Hey, you've got to click on the sentence every time. You. I was looking at this for ages before I worked out you had to click on it. And you've got to get the mouse tip right on the words. Are you there? And that little line that goes down moves. Look, see, it moves it up. So you got the mouse over it there. Look, what? And then you haven't, and it gets the timing just wrong. Very annoying. Good. Listen carefully. You are directly responsible for the deaths of thousands of people. You are probably confused, because from your perspective, these events haven't happened yet. How could you possibly be held responsible for something you haven't done? There is a shortcut around the typing. I'll show you in a bit. Well, in 35 years, your future self will commit these acts. And your future self is you. You are both part of a single continuous chronological entity, and as such, the responsibility of your future self also lies with you. What? You're probably wondering where you are. I have placed you in a temporary bubble outside of time. You'll be sharing this bubble with your future self, brought here from 35 years in the future. You are to convince your future self of the wrongness of their actions. If you can do this, you will, alter your own time stream, changing your own destiny and stopping your actions before they occur. Like I said, this little line that comes down as you're reading it, it messes with your eyesight, really does. Only then will you be exonerated of your crimes. How will I be exonerated of my crimes? By convincing my future self. Okay. There's a limitation of the technology used to hold you in this bubble. Time will flow normally for you, but it will appear to loop every 90 minutes. Until you can persuade your future self that their actions were wrong, the loop will continue infinitely. If you succeed, you will sever the causal chain linking you and your future self and alter your destiny. Before responding to anything your future self says to you, think carefully. They will have certain moods. They won't always be receptive to the way you respond to them. Think carefully about your tone and your confidence in your conversational abilities. That is actually quite an interesting mechanic, because you've got to read, well, you'll see, you've got to read what your future self is saying and decide on the best kind of response. Your conversation skill, your future self's mood, and your chosen tone will determine how well they receive what you have to say. If you want to be free, make sure you are as convincing as you can be. Think carefully, think strategically, and good luck. So although the graphics are simple, they're good, and they're in context. Wow, they were actually telling the truth. This is really happening. Right, so quick bit of housekeeping here. The red is your future self. Your dialogue appears in yellow. This is your stats, your rationality, empathy, and assertiveness levels. Your future self stats, and what their current receptiveness is. Now you've got rationality, empathy, and assertiveness, and every so often you get an option to either respond rationally, respond empathically, respond assertively. So you don't actually choose what you say. That's all pre-scripted, but you choose how you say it. And you've got to be on the same scale as your future self. Now, I've found I get better results if I go with this highest statistic that he's currently under. So I'm going to go with an assertive response with my first response, but it doesn't always work. So I don't know. I don't know if this is just, I've been very lucky. But I'm going to do that anyway. So your future self saying, "Wow, they're telling the truth. This is really happening. Well, look at you, just as I remember, so fresh-faced and naive. You've no idea what I've seen. You've absolutely no idea what's ahead of you. I'm almost looking forward to hearing what you have to say, but believe me, I stand behind what I did completely. I don't know what you're planning to say to change my mind, but it won't work." Right, so he's very high on assertive, so I'm going to respond assertively. What is this? It isn't real, surely. What the hell is going on? Now, that doesn't, to me, hit me as being very assertive. Personally, I don't think that's an assertive response, but okay. But, yeah, success. So each block of text you get a success, fail, or whatever. I'm afraid it is. Sorry, but could you try and calm down? I know this seems ridiculous, but it's absolutely imperative that you keep your cool. Look, I appreciate this is weird, especially for you. But it'd be best for both of us if you could wrap your head around this as quickly as possible. Let's not draw this out any more than we have to. Right, so now he's very high in the empathy. So let's try and respond empathetically. I appreciate you want to speed things up, but I can't help but wonder why this is less weird for you than it is for me. Is there something I'm missing here? Now you see. So my theory's wrong. That was a fail. Look, I wanted to avoid this conversation because, as you correctly just pointed out, I'd rather proceed as quickly as possible. If you must force the conversation, I guess I should explain, yes, I know something you don't. Time travel was discovered during our lifetime, but was quickly outlawed by the UN Science Commission. They claimed it was the only choice they had in order to prevent an all-out war. Shades of Jonathan Titer here. They were probably right. The worldwide uproar following its announcement was unlike anything I'd ever seen. The ban wasn't difficult to implement, as only a handful of the wealthiest nations on the planet had access to the tech in the first place. I always suspected the ban was a convenient way for the wealthiest nations to keep time travel hidden and covertly use it to their advantage. I have been expecting something like this to happen at some point. That's why I'm not as surprised as you. Right, so he's assertive again. I'm going to stick with my theory. Well, maybe it should have been banned. Who are you to say otherwise? You aren't a scientist. Are you? You see success. Well, no, I'm not. I suppose I don't know what they know. The knee-jerk move to ban felt just too sudden. There was a debate in a democratic process. It was discovered one minute, then banned the next. See, this is why I'm sure they didn't actually ban it entirely. I know I can't prove anything, but it just feels extremely plausible to me. Think about it. This was probably the most monumental technological achievement ever. Were they going to just lock it up and throw away the key? Of course they weren't. It makes sense that governments would lie about a ban to the public so they could quietly use it safe online. They've got my future self bang on to rights, because this is how I would think as well. They use it quietly in the safe confines of their own laboratories. I wouldn't put it past them to use it on their own citizens to maintain order. People in power regularly stoop to new lows in order to maintain power and control their people. Time travel could just be another weapon in their arsenal of oppression. Right, now I've got a dilemma because there's two that are high. And there's only going to be one of these answers is correct. And I'm thinking, as assertiveness was right twice, and empathy was wrong there, we know for a fact that empathy hasn't been right yet. So I'm going to play the averages here and respond empathetically. It must be nice that this sounds so plausible to you. But it's hard for me to feel the same. In fact, most of this has the hallmarks of paranoid anti-government conspiracy theory. And it's still wrong. You're telling me to refuse to believe what's right in front of your eyes. You're stuck in a time loop with your future self. I think this is enough proof that something is wrong with the official narrative about time travel ban. Look, this situation is bizarre. Immediately after finding out time travel exists, you've been forced to argue with an older version of yourself. You've not had time to properly process what's happening. If this had happened to me at your age, I'd probably have a nervous breakdown. But I am you at your age. That that line. Alright, okay. Gotta be rational. Wait, you don't remember this happening to you at my age? If I'm a younger version of you, shouldn't you have already experienced this in your past? If you haven't, this has to be a paradox. Yes. So you're getting a bit of insight every time you get something right as well. So I imagine when this is full, you get a good understanding of your future self and are able to convince him. No, it seems like a paradox. I don't think it is. I assume you are successful if you are successful of convincing me of my wrongdoing, then you'll have changed your own time stream and prevented this version of me from existing. You will live on to be a version of me that behaves differently and doesn't commit to the same crime. I will never have existed, and I never will exist. That's the point of all this, I think. This is me 35 years in the future. I'm going to be in my 70s. 70-year-old me's a war criminal. Okay, I'm still sticking with my theory, even though it's proved wrong twice, because I'm bloody minded like that. I'm going to be assertive. Come on, stop beating around the bush. This is a death sentence for you, isn't it? Sigh. Yeah, it is. It's not so bad, though. I just cease to exist. I'm sure many people would love an instantaneous, painless end to existence. In many ways, I'm actually quite lucky. But stopping me from existing isn't really the point. They could just kill me now if they wanted. The point is, they want you to understand why my actions were wrong, in order to prevent you from doing the same thing. What did that disembodied voice say at the start? We're a single, continuous, chronological entity. If you can successfully convince me, then you've successfully convinced yourself. We're one and the same. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. We're one and the same. Okay, if we're one and the same, I'm going to be empathetic. Still sounds a bit strange to me, but I understand. They think you're a dangerous criminal and have a way to prevent your crime ever happening. It's arguably better than locking someone away or sentencing someone to death. Nice. It makes sense when you put it like that, but it's not easy for me to take. I'm the person being accused of being a dangerous criminal. Remember? You know, you've not actually asked me about the details of my alleged crimes yet. We've talked about everything else except the very reason you're here. Okay. I suppose that will shed some light on the situation. Go ahead, tell me what happened. What did you do? It's a long story. You should get comfortable. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. A few years ago, for me that is, I was the overseer of a climate refugee camp, one of the many the UN set up across the world for people displaced by climate change. Oh, sensing political commentary and conspiracy theory right away here. From what I remember, it hasn't reached breaking point in your time, but in my time, millions of people from poorer countries have been displaced by colossal flooding, destroyed ecosystems, and these camps have become their temporary home. As you might expect, there's constant bickering by the world's wealthiest countries over who will take the refugees in the long term. All the while, the camps have been expanding exponentially, and no one's sure how the UN are going to keep paying for them. My camp had about 40,000 people in it. It was like a small city. Conditions were absolutely terrible. There were times when I felt that they'd have been better off dying than fleeing to this place. There was rampant crime, poverty, corruption, and... dun dun dun! Oh! Hello? Hello, can you hear us? Who's this? Wait, who is this? Who can hear us? Okay, look! We don't have much time. We've temporarily interrupted the loop. Hopefully they can't detect it. If we get the cut-off, we'll try and interrupt the loop again, but we might have to wait until the next loop for reasons that are too complicated to explain right now. Everything they've told you at the start is a lie. No, not a lie, but not the whole truth. They didn't tell you who they represented, did they? You were just told that you needed to... Have you gone? Hello? Mandatory loop reset in 3, 2, 1. So all these scores gone. Although my stats do get increased. Wow, they were actually telling the truth. This is really happening. So basically we're back to the start. Well, look at you, so fresh-faced naive. You can, and this is a godsend, you can left-click and the typing just all appears. You can flash through the conversation again. You have no idea what's about to happen to you, what's ahead of you. I'm almost looking forward to what you say. Believe me, it won't work. Let's try assertive. Again, that worked last time. Oh. Wait. I remember this. We've had this conversation before. I pressure them, even though they don't want to talk about it. Why? I'm just wasting time. No, this time will be different. I'm afraid it is. Sorry, but could you try and calm down? Imperative you keep you cool. It's best for both of us if you wrap it head around as possible. Let's not draw this out any more than you have to. Okay, I respect your wishes. Let's move on. Okay. I'm actually kind of surprised. I thought you'd be freaking out. In fact, if this happened to me at your age, I'm sure that was further along. Doesn't make sense. What are you hiding from me? This doesn't feel right. Something is wrong. I don't know what to do. Now this, I think, is my internal dialogue, but it looks like the rebel dialogue that has come in. But I think this, because of the way the dialogue's presented, this must be me. I feel like I'm making this worse. My future self seems confused, so it is me. I won't convince them by confusing them. I need to get back on track. And suddenly I've got four lots of success. Where did that come in? Right. I'm going to respond rationally. Try to write a little... Yeah. Don't you remember that it's happening to you? If I'm a younger version of myself. Shouldn't you have experienced this in the past? If you haven't, this has to be a paradox. Now, you see my running order's good now. It seems like a paradox. Assume if you're successful in convincing me wrongdoing, change your own time stream, prevented this version of me from existing. You'll live on, the future of me behaves differently and doesn't commit the same crime. I'll have never existed, never will exist. That's the point of this. Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry, I hadn't thought of it that way. So this is kind of a death sentence for you. So yeah, again, it's the same line but said differently. It's not so bad now. If I cease to exist, many people would love it instantaneously. Yeah. Stopping from existing is not the point. They could just kill me now if they wanted. Point is to prevent you doing the same thing. To successfully convince me, then you successfully convinced yourself. Well, if you're as dangerous a criminal as they claim, the world is probably better off without you. What a thing to say to myself. It depends on whether or not I'm the dangerous criminal they think I am. You know, you're not actually asking me about the details of my alleged crime. It's just the reason that you're here. Oh. Another memory. So I'm remembering things from the previous loop. I remember this. I remember them talking about being an overseer of a climate camp. Squalid conditions, but then something interrupts, something I don't understand. They want me to understand, though. They want to tell me something important. Who are they? I need to tell my future self this. I need them to understand. I remember your story. You were the overseer of a climate refugee camp. The conditions were terrible. You've already told me this. I know this sounds strange, but halfway through you telling the story, someone interrupts the loop. They try to convince me of something, but they get cut off before they can say anything. Does any of this make sense? No, I've no idea what you're talking about. The time manipulation device might be doing something strange to your mind, like I wouldn't understand that. Don't worry too much, this sort of thing is way beyond my understanding, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some weird side effects. So wait, you already know that I was the overseer? Did I tell you about the rampant crime, corruption, and... No, because you got interrupted there as well. Feel like I'm supposed to tell you something. Oh no, not again. The memory is disappearing. Who's doing this? We know who's doing this to you. Just listen. Everything you were told at the start is a lie. Well, not quite a lie, not quite the whole truth. They never told you who they represented. One's messing with your memory. You seem to be able to get around some of the amnesic effects of a loop, and that worries them. You probably thought they represented some national government, or perhaps even UN, didn't you? Well, they don't. They actually... Oh, and I had a perfect run there as well. This feels wrong. Everything feels wrong. Oh. And back we go again. Right, let's fast forward. I don't mean skip it, because you do learn new things each loop. Well, they're actually telling the truth. This is really happening. Well, I remember. So, just remember, so fresh-faced, naive. You have no idea what's ahead of you. I'm almost hearing what you had to say. It won't work. It won't work. Right. His assertiveness is low this time. So, I'm going to try empathetic. Believe me. Sorry. But are you sure this is real? Have we been duped? Good call. Good call, Rob. Wait, I remember this. We've had this conversation before. I pressure them and don't want to talk. No, this time will be different. Yes, this is real. No, we're not asserting things. I don't believe we're being duped either. Especially for you. It's best for both of us if we could wrap your head around this as quickly as possible. Let's not draw this out any more than we have to. Okay, I respect your wishes. Okay, I'm actually surprised that you're not freaking this out. When I was your age, I would be having a nervous breakdown. This doesn't make sense. What are you hiding from me? This doesn't feel right. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm making this worse. My future self seems confused. I want to get back on track. I've had another 6. Yeah, there we go. Let's be rational. Don't remember this happening your age. Paradox. So we're doing the paradox thing again. We're going to talk about him killing himself, or it's a death sentence. But stopping me from existing would be so much nicer. The point is they want you to understand, so you don't do the same thing. We're all the same. Let's be rational. Yeah. It's an inventive way of ridding the world of a dangerous... yes. Yes, absolutely thrilled about it. He's now going to go on about, you haven't asked me the details of the question. Another memory. I remember this. I remember talking about being an overseer of a climate camp. Yes. We need to tell him. We need to tell him we know who he is. I remember your story. And he goes, no, it's probably time sickness or something. And he interrupts again. This time I changed the outcome. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going round and round like this. Yes. Change the outcome. Stop talking. They know you're here. They'll just reset the loop. Not again. Disconnecting. You've been listening to me. Has he been talking for all this? Am I boring you? Do you actually want me to hear what I have to say? Yes, I do. I'm not quite sure what just happened, but I really do want to hear your story. Okay. It doesn't even matter, really. It's not like we can escape from a loop. We're stuck here with each other. Now, where was I? Ah, yes. The sickness. And we're on to the second phase. There's colossal sickness rampaging throughout the camp. I'd seen outbreaks in other refugee camps, but I'd never seen anything like this before. This level of sickness was just so far out of my realm of experience. The thousands had died and thousands more were at death's door. It was just... Oh wow, it must have been very hard to witness. Do you know what was causing it? Yeah, it was horrible to see. Not knowing the cause made it even worse. I may have been overseer, but they didn't trust me enough to tell me what they were actually doing. They? Who was they? Who was they? What are you insinuating? Spell it out for me. I was about to report the sickness to a senior management, but I began to notice officials behaving strangely across the camp. Hushed conversations, late night gatherings, off-the-book meetings, and so on. When I asked one of my contacts about what was going on, he accused me of being irrational and paranoid, and for a while I believed him, but eventually it all seemed too strange to let go. I snooped around for senior management of offices. When I knew they wouldn't be there, I didn't find anything incriminating, but I found a room in the management sector that I couldn't access as overseer. I should have been able to enter every door in the camp. Something was very off here. I convinced another contact to give more of the key code for the room. She warned me that there was no going back after this, but I didn't care. I had to know what they were hiding. Let's be rational. Seems unlikely that you could manage all this without getting caught. Unless, of course, this is where you were caught. Now, the stupid question is... This is the problem. You don't control what he says. You just control how he says it. And that's a stupid thing to say because he hasn't done any crime yet. I'm here because I'm responsible for the death of thousands of people, remember? Nothing at this point had caused anyone to die. What I said. They're stupid. Well, actually, I suppose the contact who helped me could be very well to be dead now. I don't know what happened to her. Given my current predicament, I can't imagine it was anything good. Poor Alice. I really wish I hadn't involved her. She could have met a grim fate. Fed to ostriches or something horrible like that. Still, the greater good is far more important. She'd understand if she knew the whole picture. She wasn't naive. She knew the risks. I'm happy to sign her life away. I'm sure she did. It's sad there might have been collateral damage, but if what you found was important, then at least it wasn't in vain. See, I'm good at this. I think the rule of thumb is go with the highest thing here. I really do, even though I haven't got it right every time. Oh, believe me, it was important. The room seemed innocuous at first glance, but then I noticed some paper documents on a table next to an unnetworked computer. I hadn't seen paper for a long time. It was very rare and only used when something was too important to be stored on a hackable device. I've not seen an unnetworked computer for a long time. But anyway, the whole thing seemed very suspicious. Naturally, I looked at the documents. What did I find? Well, I found they were detailed reports about a bioweapon program being tested by a clandestine arm of the UN right under my nose in this very camp. Plot, guys, plot. They were engineering a pathogen that would reliably kill about a quarter of the population. That ought to do it. They wanted it to seem natural, like it has spread by common water contaminants. Every single person in the camp was a guinea pig for a genocidal weapon. Okay. Shit, your bosses were in on this? I hope you challenged them immediately. Oh, I'm getting banked in sight now, look. Yeah, I did. I took what I found to my other UN source and confronted him about it. I demanded an explanation. I wasn't going to leave without an answer. And he knew it. He told me everything. Their justification? The wealthiest countries were never going to stop arguing about what to do with the refugees. None of their citizens wanted refugees near them, and the situation was only going to escalate as the climate worsened. Some people in those countries blamed poorer nations for not doing enough to protect themselves from the effects of climate change over the past decades. They claim these countries spent their money on everything but climate defence. This sounds so familiar. Because of this, they apparently deserve to suffer the consequences. Empathy was in extremely short supply. The immediate problem facing the UN was a lack of funding for the growing refugee camps, and no country was willing to increase their contributions. It was quickly reaching crisis point. They needed to do something drastic if they're going to affect change in time. Let's be empathetic on that one, I think. Well, I definitely empathise with the situation. I'm full of empathy. Look how empathetic I am. The whole thing sounds awful. The thing is, how do we get there from here to kill a quarter of the population? How is that a fair solution? I also empathise to some degree. I absolutely don't agree with what I'm about to tell you. They believe that a catastrophic population reduction in poorer countries would shock wealthier nations and force them to accept more refugees. Why a quarter of the population, and why common water contaminants? Contaminants. Well, a quarter is bad, but not catastrophic. It would be terrible, but it wouldn't destroy entire countries. And common water contaminants, well, they're present in much higher levels in poorer countries. and almost non-existent in rich ones. This is every government conspiracy theory I've ever read here. Right here. Is this game being created by Anonymous or someone? This is real conspiracy stuff. If a quarter of the people in the richest countries died, they would never take in refugees. The climate refugees were proportionately from poorer countries. However, they would be the ones affected by the bioweapon. From the UN's perspective, they had made a harrowing choice in order to save lives in the long run. From mine, they were willingly murdering millions of people. Okay. I'm not saying I agree with it ethically, but there is a cold logic to it. Why didn't they tell you about it? As overseer, surely you should have known. I suppose there is, as much as I don't want to admit it. I actually asked my contact why I had been kept in the dark. He said he needed a neutral agent to maintain order in the camp and not panic the refugees. I won't lie, I was upset. I felt like I'd been scorned by the very organisation I was trying to serve. I felt isolated and alone. And so many thoughts were rattling about in my head. I was kept out of the loop because I was a liability. Didn't they trust me? Did they want to kill me as part of their tests? You're more upset about being left out of their plan than the fact that they were designing a bioweapon to kill millions. I was actually thinking that myself. I know it sounds self-pitying, but the looming threat of the bioweapon was far more important to me. I guess they wouldn't know I had a strong moral compass. Blame our parents. I've always been outspoken about things I cared for. That's why I was a good overseer. I genuinely cared for those people. That's why I took my concerns to my superior officer in the camp. I knew I'd be putting my position at risk. I couldn't in good conscience let it continue. I could only got halfway through explaining my concerns to him before he called security on me. He had absolutely no intention of hearing me out. I panicked. If I was captured, no one would stand in the way of their plan. Everyone else was clearly willing to go along with it. So I made a split-second decision that I've had to live with forever since. I ran down the corridor to the environment control room. I locked myself in. I closed the camp gates, preventing anyone getting in or out. If the only working version of the bioweapon was in this camp and all the research notes were here, then I could destroy them and end this right now. I also knew that it was being tested on refugees, but I had no idea who was infected. Any one of them could have been contagious. Security were banging on the door, and it was close to breaking down. I had no time to figure out a better plan. I had to act there and then. I did the best that I could. I really did. There was nothing else I could have done. I deactivated all the safety features of the environmental control system using my overseer access and overloaded the entire thing. Every inch of the camp was turned into an inferno. It destroyed the bioweapon and the plans and killed every single person there. There was nothing else I could have done. It was a choice between sacrificing those 40,000 people or allowing millions to be killed when the bioweapon was released. I bet you're wondering how I'm still alive. Well, God. Hello? Hello? I can hear you. I'll tell you what you have to say, but they can detect you. They'll just reset the loop again. Oh, actually, I don't think they will. We've made some improvements. And hopefully we can get around their intrusion screening. We were cut off last time, partway through explaining who the people in charge of this loop actually are. They lied to you. They had no interest in absolving you of a crime. That's never been their goal. They're not a government or an NGO trying to save their people. They're actually and we'll never know. Hello, anyone? Hang on, is this going to take us right back to the beginning again? Please don't take us right back to the very... It's like Groundhog Day. Wow, they were actually telling the truth. Is it really happening? Oh, come on. Oh. Yeah, it's irrational this time. It's strange. Logically, I can only issue. Which case, asking seems rather pointless. I'm impressed that you're managing to hold it together. This is weird, especially for you. There's something I'm missing here. That's how you wouldn't know yet. Let me explain. Time travel. Government banned time travel. It was convenient for the governments. I'm convinced that they're using it behind everyone's back. Yeah, you're not a scientist, but I agree with it. I was really into the story as well now then. Yeah, let's be empathetic. Must be nice, anti-government conspiracy theory. Some miracle I got that right. No, wait, they're not being paranoid, are they? Something is seriously wrong with what I was told. Someone is using me. Someone is... You're on the right track. Keep questioning, keep doubting. Wait. Do I trust that voice? I actually feel like I am in a time loop now. I really do. I should remember them, but I can't. They sound so familiar, yet so distant. Who's lying to me? Who do I trust? What's going on? You're not being paranoid. We are being used. Something is very wrong with everything we've been told. I don't know what it is, but we need to keep questioning, keep doubting. Are you okay? You don't sound right. What happened to you? You sound extremely paranoid. Don't know. I can't remember. It seemed to make some sense at the time. Now it's just a blur. Look, it's fine. I don't feel so great myself. Also, this must be worse for you. You've not really a proper time to process what's happening to you. If this happened to me, I'd have a nervous breakdown. Wait, You don't remember this happening to you, Paradox. This is the death sentence for future me. Or perhaps a death sentence for me. Who's to say I get out of this alive? Question, doubt. Question, doubt. Yeah, it is a death sentence for me, but, you know, it's better than being actually killed. You're meant to convince me. You never actually asked me who I am, what I do, what's your favourite cheese. What did you do? You were an overseer of a concentration camp. And people lived there and got sick. There was rampant crime, poverty, corruption, and free cheese for the vicars. Hello? Hello, can you hear us? Yes, but stop talking. They know they'll just reset the loop. Okay, disconnecting. Yes, I'm listening. Yes. Where was I? Ah, yes, the sickness. There was a sickness like I'd never seen before. I broke in and I found out things about them, and the government were creating a bioweapon, that's right. Are you saying what caused the sickness are actually responsible for it? How did you find out? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There was hush meetings and secret D&D groups and people telling me I was irrational and paranoid. I snooped around management offices, got some tart into trouble. I know what they were hiding. I know the whole story. The confrontation, the desperate destruction of the camp. My God, how do I know this? What's going on? You don't have to go any further. I remember it all. You found plans for a bioweapon. All the people in your camp were guinea pigs. In a fit of desperation, you attempted to destroy the camp, hoping to destroy the bioweapon in the process. I don't understand how I know all this. It feels more like a dream than a memory. Something about this feels extremely wrong. You possibly know all that. Who are you? I mean, really. You can't be my younger self. You're UN interrogator, aren't you? What kind of game are you playing? If me now can remember this, why can't future me remember the loops as well? Whatever it is, it doesn't make any sense. Why have you locked me up in this strange place just to tell me you know everything? This is ridiculous. Stop this nonsense. Just let's... Oh. Why do you insist on being so troublesome? You're just making everything more difficult for yourself. You're also making things more difficult for me. Every time you remember something, you ruin this run of the experiment. I'm not sure why I'm telling you this, because it'll just be erased from your mind at the end of the loop. I guess I'm just fed up and needed to vent. A supervillain who's got a temper tantrum. This is stupid. I shouldn't even be talking to you. Pulling back now. Why? What? He's like, you're ruining everything. They believe that a catastrophic population reduction in the poorer countries would shock wealthier nations and force them to accept more refugees. Why a quarter of the population, and why common water contaminants? Well, a quarter is bad, but not catastrophic. It would be terrible, but it wouldn't destroy my entire countries. And what is common and non-existent rituals? We have actually had all this already. They wouldn't be affected by the bioweapon. From UN's perspective, it was a harrowing choice. Millions of people were going to die anyway because that's we are. They fancied a laugh. Well, I'd never have guessed. Sorry I had to find this out, especially this way. But why didn't they tell you? Surely they knew about it in the camp. Yes, I could barely believe what I was hearing. I actually asked my contact why I'd been kept in the dark, and he said he needed a neutral agent. I won't lie, I was upset. I felt violated. I felt used. I was kept out of the loop. I could only respond in one way. I blew the hell out of everyone. I'm more upset about being left out of their plans. Far more important to me. I cared about those people. That's why I took it to my superior officer, who lost his rag at me, and he called security. And I panicked. If I went out of the way, no one else would be there to stop it. So I made a split-second decision. I ran down there and I pushed the red button. I ran down the corridor, yep. I knew it was being tested on the refugees. Didn't know how many, so I just blew everyone up. Security were banging on the door. They had to let it down. I did the best thing I could have done. I killed everyone. Bet you're wondering how I'm still alive. Well, Hello? 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 Change that outcome. Before you go any further, whatever you're doing hasn't worked so far. They've detected it every single time. Your intrusion, your detection, your avoidance tech isn't working at all. You need to do something radically different, or they'll just reset the loop, like always. Ah, right, okay. We'll try to communicate on a narrower temporal band from now on. It'll be harder to hear us, but it'll be harder for them to detect us. Oh. You've been a bad, bad man. No. Your mission is to convince... absolve yourself of your crimes, but... Who is this? Is this the guy who was talking to us earlier having a rant, or is this the guys who are trying to communicate on a narrower band? Because the graphics are similar to the other guy. Not a government or an... after the fall of the UN. Trapped there for all eternity unless... ... Damn it. This isn't working. We... try something different. Didn't plan for it to work out like this. I honestly thought I'd die too. However, it turns out the environmental control room ran on a separate system in case the rest of the network became contaminated. I had no idea about this at the time. I wanted to go down with the ship, as it were, and instead I'm here, reliving that moment over and over in my mind. Honestly, I wish I died along with everyone else. The constant guilt, knowing how many people I killed, is unbearable. I see them every time I close my eyes. I hear them every time I'm in a quiet room. Talking about it now is making my skin crawl and my head pulsate. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't truly live. I'm merely existing until someone decides to kill me. This isn't something I'd wish on my worst enemy. It's torture. I'm sorry to hear that. At least now I understand exactly why we are in this loop together. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. What's done is done. Nothing can change that. Hurry up. Get on with what you're to do. Go on. Convince me I'm wrong. Or don't. Whatever. Right. Choice time. My job's to convince him he's wrong, but we've got to question that, whether or not we have to do it. Personally, I think, minimum amount of lives outweighs the millions of lives that would have been lost. But by the same token, the whole point of the plan was to kill a quarter of the population so that the remainder of the population would live. So the plan was the same as what he did, but on a bigger scale. But I'm going to try sympathising with him. Let's just see what goes first. I find it hard to condemn you. You were put on the spot, forced to make a difficult decision, and made the best choice you could given the information you had. It's likely that you saved more lives than you took. I can't convince you that your actions were wrong because I don't believe they were wrong. If I was in your position, I'd have done the same thing. The whole exercise is pointless. Well, that's good to hear. But it puts us in a strange position. I can't imagine the people running this whole thing will let you out so easily. It doesn't matter for me. When this thing ends, I'll most likely cease to exist. Still, I'd obviously like my younger self to escape and live our life. What was that Bruce Willis film where he went back in time and killed his past self? Have you got any ideas about how... Did you really think we'd simply shut this whole project down if you agreed with your future self? You will convince your future self of the wrongness of their actions, even if you end up stuck in this loop indefinitely. It makes no difference to us. We can wait forever. I'll just place you before you made the wrong choice, so you can make the right one this time. Is this... No, wrong answer. Vote again until you vote the way we want you to. If you ever want a taste of freedom, you'll do as we say. How can you convince someone to do something... Well, anyway. Hope we don't have to talk about this again. Okay. So we're given... This game gives us the illusion of choice, which actually ties well in with the government conspiracy thing. Right, okay, so convince. I mean, by rights, as I said straight away, although on a small scale he was right, on a bigger scale he's actually doomed the human race to extinction anyway. Well, okay then, tell me. Do you still stand behind your actions, even after everything you've just said? Well, yeah, I mean, it was definitely difficult to talk about, but everything I did can't have been for nothing. I still think I saved far more lives than I ended. Just because I'm upset doesn't mean that I don't stand by my actions. I wasn't perfect, but I did what I had to do in a horrible situation. What specifically do you think I did wrong? Accuse them of being insubordinate without having any evidence. Accuse them of abusing the trust of their friend Alice, who might be dead. Accuse them of being too passionate, driven by emotion. Harbouring suicidal thoughts without even realising it. Being paranoid. Lying about believing they're dying with everyone else. Accuse them of ignoring the fact that the UN wanted to save lives too. That's the one. Accuse them of not having proof that the bioweapon would be destroyed. That's the one. The UN wanted to save lives too. The whole plan was to save lives. That's my feeling. And we will do it rationally. You argued that in killing everyone in that camp, you also destroyed the bioweapon project, and therefore saved countless lives. But weren't the UN trying to save more lives than they took? They were developing a bioweapon in order this to prevent the climate change situation from getting any worse. It was a harrowing choice they made in order to save more lives. How is what you did any different? I've been running this moral dilemma through my head over and over. I honestly don't know if I believe my reasoning anymore. My gut response is that they were coldly, clinically and methodically planning mass murder, whereas I acted out of impulsive desperation because they backed me into a corner. But the fact that the same moral justification underpins the logic of both parties really gets to me. Got you. Maybe I am no better. But I've made my point. Why do I have to make more? Driven by emotion, maybe. And we're going to accuse him empathetically. Whilst being outspoken and passionate can be admirable traits, you see how being outspoken and passionate can have led to irrational acts. Being irrational is sometimes unavoidable. We're all human after all. But with such incredibly important decisions to make, I can't help but wonder whether the person with these traits would have been in the right frame of mind to make it. Being emotional is to be human. So I guess we have to put all the arguments to him. Perfect rationality is inhuman. I sometimes wondered whether being hot-headed would lead to something bad. But would anyone really have been in the better frame of mind if they were in my position? I guess we'll never know now. Right. What was the thing about not having any evidence of the bioweapon being destroyed? Because he didn't, really. And yeah, we're going to be assertive this time. How could you have known that the project would be stopped by destroying the camp? You admit that you're no scientist. There's no way you could have known your actions would stop the project for good. There could have been multiple bioweapon projects in many different camps across the world. You acted on what was effectively an informed guess, but that wasn't good enough justification for killing all those people. I suppose there could have been other projects. I never actually asked anyone about the possibility. I became so focused on stopping this particular project, but I never considered wider picture. They're paranoid. And let's be empathetic about and being paranoid. I don't mean to be rude, but you sounded slightly paranoid at the start of our conversation. Your main justification for what you were saying was that it just felt extremely plausible to you, with no actual evidence. You understood that part of what you were saying sounded like a conspiracy theory, even though you were adamant it wasn't. I know it's hard to hear, but I'm slightly concerned that your thinking might have been a little disordered, possibly due to the trauma you experienced. I'm not implying you're completely detached from reality or anything, but you're clearly insane. It's difficult to believe anything you told me. I think your general judgment would have been affected. I don't know what to say to that. If I'm paranoid, then my thought process would still make sense to me. It would still seem real. This whole experience has been so stressful. I would guess there's a chance I'm not seeing clearly. I don't know anymore. I'm breaking down my future self something bad. Abusing the trust of their friend Alice, who might be dead. Insubordinate. I don't think we're insubordinate, but I suppose I've got to convince them of all these things. Lying about believing they'd die along with anyone else. Accuse them of harbouring suicidal thoughts without even realising it. Ah, okay, we'll do that one, and we're going to be rational this time. You said you thought you would also die when you overloaded the environmental controls. You said that you wish you had died because you can't bear the memory of your actions. I suspect that might not be the whole story. I put it to you, sir! You were experiencing intense emotional turmoil even before you discovered the bioweapon. That would explain why you were so quick to take an action that might have cost you your life. You may have already been feeling suicidal, whether or not you were aware of it. It's hard to admit, but there have been something I've struggled with for a long time. I never got over the death of my guinea pig, Arnold. I'm sorry. It was eating me up inside every day I was at that camp. I can't tell you what it was. Not because I want to protect myself. There's no point in that now, is there? But because it has something to do with you. Something you shouldn't know. Oh, what? Don't bother protesting. I'm not telling you. But you're probably right. I wasn't consciously suicidal. But I was struggling. Perhaps I would have behaved differently if I wasn't. Okay. Let's talk about Alice and be assertive. You willingly put Alice in a terrible position on nothing more than a hunch, despite knowing full well what would happen to her. She could have died just so that you could get your answers. I'm under no illusion what I did and what I could have happened to her as a consequence. I feel terrible. It was horrible and thoughtless of me. She was my friend and I let her down. I don't think there's anything to say in my defence. I said he was so convinced that I wasn't going to be convincing him. I'm doing a good job here. Now look, there's 1, 2, 3 more blocks and only 2 more things. We've never yet got to the end here, have we? Okay. Let's go insubordinate without having any evidence, and we will be rational about it. Your suspicions turned out to be right in the end, but you were insubordinate and broke the rules without knowing the full picture. Rebelling the way you did was reckless and means they had every right to escort you out. That may be so. I'm not defending my methods. I criticize myself for the way I went about this. I just didn't see any other option at the time. Lying about believing they'd die along with everyone else, and I guess we're going to be empathetic about that. Earlier, you said you felt alienated by the UN after finding out about the bioweapon. You thought they may want to kill you with their tests too. I understand why you'd feel that way. But it makes your fear for your life more implausible. I think you felt hurt, lashed out to save yourself, and played ignorant afterwards. You're too smart to have no idea of the consequences. If you knew about the camp's systems, to find out one thing that could destroy the entire camp whilst under extreme pressure to boot, then I find it hard to believe you didn't know you would survive. You know, I don't even know anymore. I've believed it for so long that it might as well be true to me. But everything you've just said could easily be true. I guess I've won this then. Maybe I've actually convinced myself it was true in order to protect my own mind from the awfulness of what I did. I don't remember convincing myself to lie, but memory is a fragile thing, always morphing to suit one's own personal narrative. Perhaps mine has morphed too. I guess I'll never truly know. Deliver the final blow. Everything you've told me paints a picture of a paranoid, emotionally unstable hypocrite who acted without thinking and ended up killing thousands. Gentlemen of the jury, I rest my case. You were hoping to die with them, I was more, but couldn't bear the guilt. When you survived, you constructed a series of delusions in your mind in which the UN was wholly to blame and you were a misunderstood saviour. You discarded friends, you were insubordinate, you were underhanded, you jumped to conclusion based on limited data and acted impulsively without considering the severity of your actions. Most disturbingly, you seemed to leap at the chance to kill those refugees without a second's thought. I'm most deeply concerned that you may have been subconsciously looking for a reason to kill all of those refugees. I want to know where that impulse comes from. You're a future version of me. I need to know. I can't end up like you. I won't. How dare you? I dedicated my life to helping refugees. I did this to save everyone. This isn't the true story, though. We've forgotten whole rebellion and who's running this thing going on. Oh God, I guess I can't hide it any longer. I'm not really a future version of you. I am actually a reincarnation of Frankie Howard, and I don't know where I'm going with that. Okay. There's something I've been keeping from you. My parents were killed by climate refugees. Sorry, our parents, Mum and Dad, slaughtered in the streets of the very camps that they founded. They just wanted to help them. They couldn't stop climate change. They couldn't force the wealthiest countries to accept refugees. All they could do was try to provide for them as best they could, using their influence. And yet, those people blamed our parents for imprisoning them. They didn't understand anything about the complex social politics that our parents were struggling through just to get the camp started. All their stupid, brainless anger just ended up laser focused on Mum and Dad because they created the camps. They needed someone to blame. Our parents were an easy target. It was brutal. Justice. The attackers were killed on the spot. But doing so only made matters worse. Word spread to the other camps, inspiring other misguided idiots to attack innocent officials who were just trying to help. Eventually, this uprising was quashed, but only through much more extreme security at every single camp. All this did was make things worse for other refugees. In the long run, so stupid. Such a waste. Anyway, I vowed to carry on the parents' legacy. I did everything I could to maintain order and safety at my camp. No one dared attack me. They knew what the consequences would be. I didn't tolerate any insubordination. But it didn't matter how well I ran the camps, how well I kept the refugees in line. Every time I looked at their faces, I was reminded of what happened. All I felt was resentment and rage. I spent all of my energy trying to turn this anger into something productive. I became the defender of the refugee cause. This took the edge off a while, but I could never truly get rid of a deep resentment I felt. It was growing inside of me like a cancer. It was only a matter of time until I snapped, so... You know what? I probably was looking for a reason to kill all those people. I never wanted to admit it, but you managed to get it out of me. Well done. And I'd do it again, 1,000 times. Oh, God. I give up. I just want all this to end. Don't turn into me. Don't become a bitter and consumed by hatred. You can do better. I know you can. We can be so much better than this. Please, just let this end. Oh, God. Haven't we had this already? Congratulations. That was fantastic work. In all my time, I didn't think I've seen your future self so thoroughly dejected by the process. I mean, wow. They were well and truly broken by the end. It was a beautiful sight to behold. What? Absolutely masterful work. I really hope you're successful next time. It was a joy to watch. Sicko. Wait, next time? What next time? Ah, sorry. Forget I said anything. They're going to loot me again. What I meant to say was, thank you for your service. You have prevented a horrible crime from occurring in the future and have saved thousands of lives. I'll release you from your loot now. Enjoy the rest of your life. It's not over there lying. Don't listen to them. Try to remember. Help us. Stop. Hang on. But then it's taking us back to... It's taking us back to this. It's taking us back to the menu. Now, is there an overwrite option or... No, it continues. It continues. It doesn't say overwrite. Oh, God, and it takes us round again? No. Because we got to the end, I suppose it's just a modified title screen. Because I want to know what happens with the rebels And who is actually running it? Oh, do we have to play the whole game through again to do that? If we do, it's going to be for another time. It's going to be for another time. It really is. This video's gone on far too long as it is. I wasn't expected to play through the entire game, but there was no real clear point to stop. That is Your Future Self. It's available right now on Steam. Oh, well, I don't know. It could be available right now on Steam. It is due to be unlocked later on today. Like I say, the time of recording is the 8th of March. I don't see any reason why it won't be. It's a fantastic game. It drew me in. I mean, the graphics were incredibly simple. Incredibly simple, but it drew me right into it. Compelling story. I'm wondering if there's multiple outcomes. I'm wondering, because with these games, as I said halfway through it, you're given the illusion of choice. It keeps telling you to go back. But I've often found with this, by playing the same choices twice, you get different outcomes as well. So I'm wondering if there is a multiple outcome where you choose, you insist on not convincing your future self. And then that goes down the Rebels route, and you find out more about what's going on with the Rebels. Oh, I'm going to have to play it all again. It's available on Steam. Check it out. I don't know how much it's going for, but if you're looking for a 2-hour distraction, if you're looking for something that is compelling and makes you want to play it again, I don't know if there is a multiple outcomes or if it is just the game as it was the first time round. Then I don't know if it is worth a second play, or if that is the case, you probably only get 2 plays out of it. But I will say, I've not had any experience with contortionist games in the past, but I will be watching them in the future, because that was a different way of telling a story. It was interactive, drew me in, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I hope you did as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please, if you've enjoyed it, do give my video a like. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well and set those alerts to let you know when I next release another video, I suppose, for want of a better word. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Keep it edgy, and I will see you next time.